Hello, my name is Audrey, and today I will be discussing the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. For background, while drilling for BP, an oil spill occurred on April 20th, 2010, off of the coast of the United States in the Gulf of Mexico. So at 9:45, natural gas blew through the drill's concrete core and rose to the rig platform and thus exploded on the surface. And this fire lasted for about 36 hours and resulted in 210 million gallons of oil dumped. 7 months prior to the accident, Deepwater Horizon failed a safety audit, and they discovered that the blowout preventer was 5 years overdue for recertification. They recommended rigging operations were suspended, but they were not. They kept continuing. BP was not being properly regulated by the U.S. government, and these checks and balances were based on trust. And BP also faced pressure for time and money. They were 6 weeks behind schedule, $58 million over budget. And while no one was told to risk safety, many decisions were made with the bias of there's not a lot of time or money. And throughout the course of the spill, 3 methods for operating the blowout preventer in an emergency failed. Causes and violations. The root causes were the lack of federal regulation paired with pressure for time and money, poorly designed cement slurry. The rig crew also failed to note that the natural gas was rising. Workers failed to note pressure tests. They disregarded these failed results as faulty. The blowout preventer not working due to it being 5 years overdue. And backup protocols failing was also a root cause. And also the emergency response was not well practiced, therefore having the engineers being very slow and ineffective as to how to solve this. With regards to ethical violations, according to the National Society of Professional Engineers, Section 3, engineers shall acknowledge their errors and not distort or alter the facts. In the case of Deepwater Horizon, engineers failed to speak up when pressure tests failed. They disregarded them as faulty. They failed to note poor designs in the cement slurry that were used to prevent the natural gas from rising. And they also failed to note that the 3 methods for operating the blowout preventer also did not work. So all the backup protocols did not work. According to Section 3, engineers shall not be influenced in their professional duties by conflicting interests. As I mentioned before, since the operation was 6 weeks behind schedule and $58 million over budget, many were influenced having this time and pressure. Many were influenced by that pressure to complete the job. And then in Section 2, if engineers' judgment is overruled under circumstances that endanger life or property, they shall notify their employer or client and such other authority as may be appropriate. Engineers noted the failed safety audit and intended to replace the blowout preventer that was 5 years overdue, but the act was overruled due to that lack of time and money. So in that case, the engineer should have spoken up and had this fixed. Engineering judgments, just to summarize, leaders chose not to suspend rigging operations even though it failed the safety audit. Workers chose not to speak up over safety concerns during the event. They proceeded to drill despite concerns related to those failed pressure tests, and they did not aim to fix that bad project management with the BP and the government being based on trust. There was no attempt to fix that. Also, the blowout preventer was poorly designed. Engineers did not certify the blowout preventer on time in the first place. So even when they did complete that safety audit and found out that it was 5 years overdue for recertification, it should never have gotten to that point. It should be recertified in a timely fashion. The cement job did not seal very well, also poorly designed, and engineers failed to make quick decisions. So the leak occurred from April 20th to July 25th, 2010, lasting about a total of 97 days. So moving on to the consequences. With regards to global consequences, many Americans began referring to BP by its formal name, British Petroleum. So that was an attempt to shift blame a little bit. Also, this raised international safety concerns about drilling safety. It demonstrated environmental consequences of a large spill to other countries, and it influenced global discussions on how to respond to these oil spill in case of a future incident. Economically, BP was ruled as being primarily responsible. They were fined $28 $20.8 billion, and they paid an additional $45 billion for total cleanup costs. Local economy is based on fishing and tourism, so that plummeted. Fisheries lost an estimated 173 million, while tourism lost an estimated 691 million. Environmental consequences: over 1,000 endangered turtles were killed, 100,000 endangered turtles, 1,000 dolphins. This disturbed local vegetation, as you can see from the image of the water. Erosion rates doubled on 100 miles of Louisiana shoreline, disturbed local vegetation, and even after 10 years, ecosystems still struggle to recover. With regards to society, 11 crew members died in this tragedy. BP pleaded guilty for 11 cases of manslaughter, 17 were injured, and many workers lost trust in the company and in severe cases suffered from PTSD. Alternative judgments that should have happened: the engineers should have addressed safety concerns, suspended rigging immediately, even if it caused financial setbacks. They should not have ignored the failed pressure tests, disregarding them as faulty. They should have spoken up to supervisors once concerns about those failed pressure tests arose, and they should have acted faster immediately after the spill occurred. If those judgments happened in the alternative way, if the engineers did not miss crucial safety inspections and had addressed those concerns right away, the blowout preventer could have been repaired and it would have avoided the disaster altogether. So, leading to that global impact, instead of demonstrating to other countries the consequences of a large spill, the US could then advertise the importance of fulfilling those safety requirements in a timely manner and could have raised global awareness on necessary measures to avoid detrimental oil spills instead of being a bad example. With regards to the economy, if the operation was suspended as soon as the faulty blowout preventer was discovered, BP would face minor economic setbacks as they were already behind schedule and encourage the continuation of work. However, these setbacks would be minor in comparison to the $60 billion total spent on fines and cleanup. And then once again, the local economy, which is dependent on fishing and tourism, would never have been disturbed if the event was did not happen. With regards to the environment, it did take 97 days for the leak to completely stop. If the stakeholders had acted faster, there would be less oil in the water, less animals killed, such as birds, fish, dolphins, whales, and sea turtles, and it would have a lessened effect on erosion and disturbances to local vegetation, which are still happening today. With regards to society, if the engineers had spoken to supervisors once they had noted the failed pressure tests, 11 workers would not have died or be faced with PTSD. And if the government was more involved in putting those safety protocols in place instead of having it based on trust, the local community would not suffer from the economic and environmental effects of the spill, which in turn affects society greatly, and the workers would not face total distrust in BP for the accident. With regards to my research process, I initially started by watching short videos to gain background and understanding. Then I moved on to documentaries about the spill. Then I read news articles from the event right after it occurred and 10 years after, just to get that difference in opinion and understand how the effects persisted after 10 years. And then I also researched and read scholarly articles, and doing my search, I was able to adjust topics based on what I wanted to gather information on and search accordingly. And then lastly, here's my bibliography. Thank you so much.